responses. All right, well, we're recording now. So would you want to repeat that, Erin?
Yeah, I'll repeat. I said it's probably someone you would go to for advice, or like a sounding board. Or like if you got an email from a parent or from an admin, you wanted to make sure someone wanted to maybe look over it before you sent it, just to kind of have a fresh set of eyes, and someone who maybe has been teaching sometimes for a little while, and it could, or someone straight out of college even could be one that has the most new information from universities.
Excellent. Anyone else have a different definition or want to add on to Erin's?
I think being a teacher leader is being a lifelong learner as well, because leaders know that we're never finished, we're never done learning, and always pursuing that is what it means to be a leader.
Just by a show of hands, how many of you consider yourself a teacher leader in your building? How about, is there anyone who considers himself a teacher leader outside of your building more than in your building? Yeah, okay. Because I see some of that too sometimes, where there are a lot of people who may have a committee role at like national NCTE or what's the social studies one, and national something. Just pretend like I knew what that was. Maybe they have a role on all these other outside committees, but maybe not as much in your own building. So my next question is, what are some of the roles you have had as a teacher leader? What are some of the roles you take on as a teacher leader?
I frequently am the go-between between teachers and admin. Sometimes teachers don't want to go straight to admin. They'll say, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, here's how I would approach it.
So you're kind of that sounding board of like, hey, I need advice on this. I need to know how to approach the situation. That's good.
I've also been in the district a long time, so I know kind of where the skeletons are buried. And so you kind of have some information there too, who not to go to.
Or how to approach, oh, you need to go talk to that person. Here's the best way to approach that person. Bring coffee, and that's a good starting point. Or, oh, no, that person, you're gonna want chocolate. Or that person, you might need an adult beverage afterwards. Any other roles that you have that you take on as a teacher leader? Jenica?
Hi, I didn't mean to unmute myself.
Oh, okay. I thought you had something profound to say.
That's okay. I would say, like, a lot of times I tend to know some things about the technology in the school, or I get involved in stuff like this, like Ed Camp, becoming a part of that. And so teachers will come to me for questions about their technology in the school, or I can offer things like this Ed Camp free conference for them to go to, and for them to, better themselves as a teacher as well. So I guess those would be some teacher leaders offer new things for other teachers. I don't know.
It's good. And I'm seeing a lot in the chat, being the one who's like the first person to try something out. Raise your hand if you are the go-to person to try something new. And then if it doesn't work, then you're the one that also figures out how to fix it. It's a lot of pressure. Part of my goal out of the session is that you just see that there are other people who have experienced the same struggles at times as a teacher leader, like the pressures that are on you as a teacher leader. It is, to me, it's like a privilege to get that opportunity, but sometimes you have to find the way to balance it out, because you do have other responsibilities other than being that teacher leader role. And I think that's where I get torn a lot, is how do I support teachers in the building? How do I support teachers in the district and all around, and not burn myself out because I'm also teaching full-time or instructional coaching full-time, or whatever your role is? You have so many different things that you're trying to balance.
I was going to mention that, Josh. when I was in the classroom, not only I had a classroom, a ED classroom, I was also the one helping other people in the building with the behavior or IP related issues or special education related issues, or going to other buildings, helping other teachers with the behavior piece. So the more you're outside your comfort zone and being a leader, the busier you get. And Kelly mentioned that's a privilege and also a curse. Yes, because it got to a point that you don't want to have to say no to people, but you can't do everything all the time. So you become it's easy to get overwhelmed. And the other thing I was going to mention related to your first question, one of the things that I think is part of being a teacher leader is being able to help other people reflect on their own practices. As a mentor, as a colleague, just help them to see like how great they are or the areas that they can grow, just walking with them on that path.
And I was thinking about what Juliana was saying first about just being really busy, but also outside of school hours, like I'm, volunteer / have been voluntold to do I'm on 3 different committees, which I love all of them, but then it's like.
You were surprised with one of them, like, hey,
I was surprised with one of them. Didn't know I was on it. But it just becomes like kind of chaotic after school. And then it's like, I just, run out of time to do the things that I need to do after school. And it's nice to be a part of that stuff, but sometimes maybe only be on like one.
Plus you have a husband who is like on a million committees. That probably doesn't help either.
I know, our poor children.
So
they don't see us.
So as teacher leaders, we really need to build other teacher leaders so we can start saying no and encouraging other people to say yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and Juliana, that's where, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, yes, like leaders make copies of themselves. Like that's what leadership is, so that your impact is not as limited when other people are doing it.
So if you know Amy Hellman, she teaches in Olathe at Santa Fe Trail, and she recruited me to be on. She volunteered me I was going to co-coach the robotics team with her. She did that for a year, taught me how to do it, and then the next year she said, "Okay, you're the coach now," and then said, "All right, see ya." I was like, "Wait, what? What just happened?" But I mean, she knew I was ready for it, and I enjoyed the role. But it was definitely her showing me how to take that role on, and then she passed off the responsibility onto me, like, "Hey, you're ready to go with it," because it's one thing that she saw was important, but she also realized that with all of her other responsibilities, it wasn't something she could continue. So she built me up for this role and then passed it on to me. She's done that a few times to me. I've learned to be very careful when she asks if I want to help her with something. All right, so next up, and so since we have an administrator here, at least one, how could administrators help support you in your teacher leadership role? Because I feel like most principals want their teachers to have these teacher leadership roles, but thankfully, JJ has always been really good about providing us opportunities for training, providing us opportunities for these leadership roles. But if you were going to be able to talk to your administrator, what do you think, how could administrators help out? How could they support you as a teacher leader?
Okay, so piggybacking on what Abby mentioned about replicating, like multiplying, I think guiding the teachers who are leaders in the buildings to encourage and empower others to do the same. Because I think sometimes as teacher leaders, we are a little bit isolated in a way, because not everybody, it's hard to approach other people when they don't want to be approached. So I think leaders can guide us through those roadblocks and support us through helping other people to take leadership roles and empowering them, because anyone can be a leader. It's not something you were born with. Anyone, it may be easier for some, but anyone can be a leader.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And some people, like, they have it in them, but they're not going to come out and say, hey, I would be really good at this. I want to do this. And so having an administrator who can see the things that you're really good at and help you to realize that you're really good at that and that you would be a good teacher leader for those things. I think that's really helpful, because some people just kind of like stay in their classrooms and don't really venture outside, but they just need a little extra push there.
When
One of
I did
the-
that my first 3 years of teaching, I was the Read 180 teacher, and so I wasn't on a team, and I wasn't really tied into any of the committees or anything. And it took encouragement from others to say, hey, do you want to come be a part of this committee? I think you'd be a good fit for it. Even with our school redesign, the BLT chair and JJ came and said, hey, we think this would be a good fit for you. Would you want to come join this committee to work on this project? So I agree with you, seeing that in teachers. But I also understand what Sierra said in the chat about, it's, you want to be a teacher leader, but you also want to protect your time, because that's important too. And I think this year, especially, it's been even more important to me. Like, I've realized there are so my daughter just started middle school, and I realized, oh, wow, she's only got 6 more years of school left. That's terrifying. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to miss a lot of things if I'm not careful and I don't protect my time. So my next question is how do you function as a teacher leader and still maintain that balance of work and home life?
So I got
Josh, I want to
things I want to share. Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Abigail.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. I just, because before we go on to this next question, I think Josh, your answer ties to what administrators can do, which is remove barriers. And really, I mean, I was reading this book. It's called What Great Principals Do Differently. And really, principals' sole purpose is to make teachers empowered, make their lives easier, and also make their schools safe places for teachers to take risks and fail. And again, just removing those barriers that prevent teachers from finding that success, and also from having to kill themselves to pursue that success. So Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll just piggyback off of what you said. And one of the biggest things that administrators can do is help or encourage their teachers to actually say no. Because like you said early on, oh, who in here is the first one to raise their hand? Obviously, we're in an ed camp. We are all the people known for constantly raising our hands. And we all have colleagues who are excellent teachers that are like, I'm not going to raise my hand. And that goes to Sierra's point about, I might admire everything that Josh does, but I see that he works 75 hours a week. And if I don't want to do that, I'm not going to raise my hand. And so when it comes down to it, sometimes a principal is like, hey, I appreciate it. And the barrier that they can remove is the actual thing. I'm going to have you pass on this because I know that you have priorities here or there. And then the second thing I wanted to share, it's a quote that I love. It's by James Clear. And it's, every action is a vote for or against the person you want to become. So Josh, when you shared like, oh my gosh, I have 6 years left with my kiddo in the house. Like when an opportunity comes, it's like, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? And then getting really comfortable of saying no, but not from defensiveness, but like, if I say yes to this, it means I'm missing out on XYZ. And usually teachers have such great hearts. They're like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. And so sometimes that principal role is like helping your teachers stay true to their paths by saying no.
And just, I think I'm the only administrator in here. If there's another one, holler. But I think that everything you say is really good feedback for me. I know that in a redesigned school, the leadership structure has flattened. So I don't, that the principal doesn't make all of the decisions in a redesigned school. I mean, it's really pretty collaborative. And so I would say a couple of things, and I've shared this with Josh before too, that when you are a teacher leader, your relationships with others are going to change. They really are. And you have to be prepared for that. And I felt that when I became one at a middle school before I got into administration. And so understanding that your relationships may change with folks, they may look at you a little bit differently, being prepared for that. But from the administrator perspective, we're okay with no. We are okay with no. We're not okay with maybe. We're either okay with yes or no. And if you say no, that's okay, because then we're able to find somebody, so I would say, at least at the middle level, knowing all the administrators like I do, we're okay with hearing no over maybe, or I'll try, or something like that. Because that's a great point, Kelly. If you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so I think it's really important that you all balance your time, because, Josh has looked at the book, but there's a book called Four Disciplines of Execution. And it basically comes down to the more you try to do, the less effective you are. And so if you do 2 to 3 things, you're going to do 2 to 3 things well. If you do 4 to 5, you're going to do 1 to 2. If you do 6 to 8, you're going to do 0. So you really have to prioritize what's important for you. We've had some folks that have recently I've had conversations with where they're like, the BLT may not be great for me, but I'm really into the behavior and looking at student behavior and systems. And so I'm like, okay, guess what? We have a behavior intervention team that you can plug in on. So we've had some folks that have shifted from one side, like instruction, to a different side. And so they found their seat on the bus.
I think a lot of it is clear expectations too. Like, so we want you to be a part of this committee. This is what's involved in it, and being upfront about, hey, this committee is going to be a little intense. Like we're going to meet every other week, or this committee, we just meet once a month. If you want to be involved, this is a good starting point. I think that's helpful too, even as teacher leaders, when you're recruiting people to be a part of it, just being clear with them on what the expectation is, so they can make that decision. Because sometimes you'll join a committee and realize, oh man, this is going to be a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. All right, let me see what my next question was. Oh, I got that one. I'm just a rock star. I already knew the question. Now, okay, this is one that I've struggled with, because inevitably when you do this teacher leader role, this is always the question that I get asked next. Okay, so when are you going to be a principal, or when are you going to be this level, or when are you going to move on to something else? So can you accomplish more from the classroom? And there's no right or wrong answer, or from a role outside of the classroom.
I feel like that kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like if your goal is to be in the classroom and directly helping the children every day, then it might just be you might accomplish more in the classroom. But if your goal is to help the other teachers, or make big decisions, then maybe it's outside of the classroom.
I was going to agree with Jenica and say, in addition to that it made me think it also depends on what stage you're at in your teaching, because I think we evolve as teachers. I'm not the same teacher I was when I started teaching, and I'm certainly don't expect to be the same teacher 5 years from now. So depending on where you're at, like personally even, because that can affect on how you are going to be in the classroom or outside of the classroom. I think that all kind of plays together.
Emily, what were you gonna say?
Sheila literally took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say, that's what I was gonna say, that I feel like it changes. I know, so I have a daughter who started kindergarten this year, and that has freed me up to be able to do more and to be more, and because thank goodness we were able to pull her, and she's at my school. And so I don't have to run out because I don't need to get to XYZ place. She can come in my room, and so I can do a lot more, or, just different things. My husband moved from night shift to day shift. And so now it's not me all the time. I think your life stage plays a huge role in that. And then also defines, and I think the relationships in your life and in the classroom and in your school or wherever else define a huge role of that too. Because I know like right now I wouldn't be ready to give up a classroom because of the relationships I have with some students that are still in the building. I wouldn't be able to walk out. And I think there's different times and different stages in your life where you're ready for those things or not.
And I think whichever stage you're in or whatever you are, I think I agree with what everyone said too, that it's kind of what you're working towards at that moment. And it's okay if like your goal is to stay in the class. As of right now, I don't see myself leaving the classroom anytime soon. I get so much fulfillment out of it that I think I would miss working with the kids so directly. And that may change at some point, but I think it's okay if you're like, you know what, my leadership role is going to stay in the classroom because I feel like I can make a bigger impact here in the classroom and be a teacher leader in my building than moving to the district level. So part of my goal for that question was just so you realize that it's okay if you want to be in the classroom, like you can lead from the classroom and still have a huge impact and still find ways to have those leadership roles. You don't have to necessarily move on, but if you're ready to move on to something else, that's okay too.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Julia.
To add on to that, what is modeled for you influences you, right? If you're considering stepping into a teacher leader role or instructional coach or an admin role, and you have an administrator that is completely overwhelmed and you see that they are in at 7 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m., you might be at a place where you're ready, but what is modeled for you is like, is that what I want? And so some people won't even step into it just because of what they see. And that's not a bad reflection on other instructional coaches or principals, but people tend to go towards what's familiar. So if I see someone doing this and I see it's accessible to me, then maybe I will step up into that. But when I see that raising my hand for things means giving up tons of time, unintentionally, I might never step into that, even when I feel I'm ready and I want a challenge, I want something else. And sometimes that might be where even people decide to leave a school where, they're a valued person, but they just don't see the opportunity they want based on what's out there.
What I was going to mention is that being a teacher leader, okay, let me start this over. You should not try to be a teacher leader because you want to be an instructional coach or you want to get out of the classroom. That should not be your motive. Your motive should be a teacher leader because that's what you want to be. Because once your motive becomes so people can see you, it's defeating the purpose of being that leader. It's so Emily, I applaud you. Keep it up. That's what you should be doing. You too, Josh. It's like if it happens, if it's the time to happen, then it's great. Other than that, it shouldn't be your motive.
Yes, Juliana, I completely agree. And speaking to what we were talking about in terms of we become what we've seen, I think it's so important for us to always stay in touch, wherever role we're in, always stay in touch with that student of ourselves, and being that lifelong learner will keep us grounded and always asking ourselves, am I serving? Am I making the impact? And that's part of what leading the classroom becomes, is it's so much more gray area. And before, as a teacher, you have the clear boundaries of your role. And you also have the immediate satisfaction of, I'm looking at this child in their face right now and I'm talking to them and they're talking to me. And I could tell you without a single shred of doubt that I am making a difference right now in this moment. There's another bubble around that when you take one step away from the classroom in whatever role that is. And so then there's other opportunities there, right? Like institutional change can happen when you step away in a way that you couldn't create as a teacher. And so it just depends. You just have to make the most and just maximize wherever you're at, and really change. You can change people's lives in either way.
And I think from a bigger, broader scope too, it's important that at the building level and at the district level, at every level, leaders are pulling teachers in to have those conversations too, of having a voice in what is being decided on. And I think that that's something that administrators can do to support teacher leaders, and district level people can do to support teacher leaders, is bring teacher leaders in to have those conversations and have a voice in some of those decisions that are getting made. So we're not constantly saying, hey, you need to leave the classroom in order to have a voice in those bigger decisions. All right, now here's another thing that I've always struggled with is where do you find that mentorship piece as a teacher leader? Because sometimes it can be a little isolating if you are the only one in your building. Thankfully, I've got a lot of amazing leaders in my building. But if you're in a building where you're the only one who's really trying to push for change or try something different, how do you find those mentorship roles? How do you find people who are further ahead in the journey? Or are you all stuck like I am?
It's hard to find a good mentor. It's hard to maintain that relationship, and it's hard to be a mentor. So oftentimes I feel like I just lean on people like our EdCamp team. I think that you guys have served as mentors to me, and it's not like a formal mentorship. It's I'm just going to watch what you do, and then I'm going to try to be more like that.
I was going to say something similar to what Abby was mentioning, like so hard. And I think the biggest obstacle is the relationship building piece, because you have to be vulnerable. You have to be able to open up yourself and like talk about things with people that don't necessarily know you yet. So you have to start from the relationship point of view, so you are able to be honest and upfront. I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
I'm sure it was really profound too.
And I would say, someone's a great mentor when they're, like we said before, when they're empowering you and giving you opportunities to stretch yourself and grow and encouraging that. That's a good indicator of a positive mentor relationship.
Kelly, would you mind explaining what a CASA center is?
Those are just the education service centers. So there's Orion, Greenbush, ESDAC, I know there's 6 of them, but I don't know all 6 names. But when so I live in a small town, and I used to teach in Oregon. And so the district I taught in had 14 schools. So when we would have grade level days, I would have all these 4th and 5th grade teachers that I could tap into. And then I moved to this small town, and I'm like, I'm the only one, I need one. And so I reached out to ESDAC, and I'm like, put me in contact with some other 5th grade teachers. And we started our own 5th grade PLN, and our principals and superintendents were totally down for it, because we were able to share resources, share ideas and things like that. And that was, there were 8 of us from 4 school districts that would get together. And I think that's a great thing for when you step into that mentor role, is whatever service center, most districts belong to them anyways. Just say, hey, do you know of other teachers? And it's not saying you got to purchase something from them, but like, hey, who else is in this role? Can you send me some superintendent emails or things like that? And then get together with those people. And when I was doing it, we would travel to each other's schools. Part of it was always a tour and going in, and it was lots of great stuff. But if you think of the benefit of the year we've spent on Zoom, you don't have to spend the travel budget to go to, it's still great to be able to go to somebody else's school, but you can get together and just have that fluid give and take that is what's needed. Like in our PLN, no one was the leader. We would maybe set an agenda like, hey, let's talk about ways to do, what do you have in store for fractions? And we would share those, but the conversation just ebbed and flowed. And when we had student teachers, they were like, are we going to have this? And we're like, no, not unless you create it. I think it's the same for mentor teachers. And it's a new role. And if you think of the way that you support brand new teachers with the mentor programs that are in place in the state, and brand new principals and brand new superintendents, when you shift from that classroom to a teacher, leader, or coach or something, if they don't have that in place yet, go out and get it.
Yeah, Kelly, I think that's a really good point. I would just say, just go create it. Just go create it. You know, even in a large district here in Olathe, and Kelly, I've had the opportunity to work with Greenbush Service Centers, and a little bit with SDAC, and they're amazing. So if you're in a smaller district, that's what they're there for. That's what the school districts pay for. It's a service. You know, it's part of your benefits of being a teacher. But I would just say go create it. We saw a need in Olathe for another principal, and I saw a need in Olathe for some support for student teachers in the district, and we created a student teacher boot camp like 3 years ago, and it's just taken off, and I don't really do much with it anymore. So somebody else took it and made it better. So it's things like that. I think your principals will be happy to. But if something's not there, just create something and go out and find some people that are like-minded with you, and just go build it yourself. You know, and with Twitter and everything, you know, and everything out there, I think it's a lot easier to connect with folks today.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a couple of things that one of them is the teacher leader roles that I completely forgot. Being a mentor teacher to student teachers, that is definitely a teacher leader role. And I was also going to mention social media. I don't really do Twitter as much, but I know Facebook has a lot of groups and they have so many ideas, and it's just a really big community that you can go to anytime you need anything. So, and it also really helps. I know my group that I work with, the 4th or 5th grade teachers in my school, it's just within our school, but we also are really great at supporting each other and making sure that we share with each other and talk through how to do things, and just try to make each other the best that we can all be. And it's not like, you know, it's not a competition for who can have the best lesson. We just all want each other to be really successful. So we're good at talking through things and coming up with new ideas together.
And I think that's a lot of it happens organically, but I would say try to pull as many people into your conversation in your orbit as possible. I know that's actually how EdCamp formed, was April and Ariel talked about, hey, this would be a really cool idea. And then they started reaching out to people. Hey, do you want to come join this group? We're working on this project. And each year it's kind of expanded out, and we've all kind of formed our roles as we process through what EdCamp could become. But that was just happened organically, of pulling people in. Hey, you're doing some cool stuff online. Do you want to be a part of this? And I think the more you can encourage, especially new teachers, to get involved and get connected in, the more everybody can have a role in it. And the more people you bring in, the less work you have to do, because if we divide it up, it makes it a lot easier, because shared responsibility. Because I can already say that I am probably the weak link on the EdCamp team, because I'm very good at looking like I'm contributing a lot. I find the roles that like look like I did a whole lot, but no, they are the real rock stars of it. So it's a shared responsibility.
Whatever.
He said this to me the other day, and I was like, what are you talking about? He's just too humble.
Yeah, you're selling yourself short.
All right, let's see if I had any more questions. Okay, so here's one, and this isn't really, I'm just curious of your thoughts on this, because as you start posting online, as you start sharing out what you're doing, this thought, and so when I published my book, this was like my biggest nightmare fear, is like, I don't want people to look at, oh, look at me, I wrote a book. Hey, go buy my book, which you should. It's awesome sauce. It's available at all the bookstores. Check it out. But I didn't want it to become that, like, hey, look at me, look how flashy I am. But you also want to share what you're doing. So how do you find that balance between like, I want to provide resources and help other teachers, versus I'm going to be really flashy and out there and everybody's come look at me, I'm awesome. How do you find that balance?
You share your why. I wrote a book because I love teachers and I love when they do things like this. And this is what it does. You share your why.
It's not about Josh. It's about the reason behind the book, your intentions behind. And remind people, I did this because when I implemented this in the classroom, the students got better. It's not me. And you just said that you didn't do for yourself, or I'm gonna go on a limb here saying that you also didn't do for the money, because it probably
No.
Jennica is agreeing. So you do those things because you're so excited about what happened in the classroom that you can't wait to share it. It doesn't matter who's sharing. What matters is what's happened after you implement those things. It's the why. It's the reason being.
Well, I think it's also great modeling for you as an English teacher, to show your, passion for writing and reading.
And that goes back to the heart of what it means to be authentic, right? Like if we expect others to do something, we do the same thing. And if we expect our students to read and write, we are going to be reading and writing. If I'm an instructional coach and I expect my teachers to collect formative assessment, I'm going to be doing that, but my students are my teachers. That's why edu celebrities are so, they leave a bad taste in our mouth, is because maybe they aren't walking the walk as much, or there's not as much substance to what they're doing because they are not walking the walk. I don't know.
So my model has been Jennifer Gonzalez, Cult of Pedagogy, because she's not in the classroom anymore, but the way she approaches it, it's always who she's interviewing is the highlight of whatever she's doing. And if you're not following Cult of Pedagogy, Jennifer Gonzalez, you definitely need to. She's fantastic. She interviews a lot of people about technology, but she interviews people about a lot of different things. She's got a tech resource guide that comes out every January, but I'd highly recommend you follow her. She's kind of been my go-to though. Like it's very clearly the focus is on substance and not look at me, I'm awesome.
A podcast, right?
Yes, it's excellent. I just share with you guys a Twitter account that'll make you laugh, the Edgy Celebrity Parody account. And I was just looking through some of the tweets. It's very fun. It'll make you laugh, but like at the heart of it, like it's like making fun of like, it's almost like shame based, like Edgy Celebrities. It's always like, if you're not doing this, then you're not a real teacher. Like if we're not operating from a place of shame, that's not good coaching or mentorship or leadership. So I think that's what makes teacher leaders different than Edgy Celebrities.
It can get toxic too. I was looking online today and some of there are things that I feel strongly about and things that I'm just like, I kind of care about this, but I'm not going to like argue with you about it. But there are some toxic conversations on Twitter sometimes where it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you used that strategy. That was like the worst thing that you could ever do. Your students are going to fail at life because they use that strategy. This is the worst thing ever. And I was just like, what are you doing? So anyway, any other last thoughts, comments about being a teacher leader before we wrap up?
Only that I wish I wouldn't have missed the beginning of this. You guys, this is awesome.
Well, I will say the number one thing I hope that you know is that it's okay to say no. It's okay to limit and be selective about your teacher leadership roles. When I first started, I took everything. I was like, I want to be on this committee and I want to do this committee. Once I started getting tied in, and then I got overwhelmed and I got frustrated and burnt out on it. And I started narrowing it down. Okay, what do I really care about? This committee is helpful, but there are other people who are doing a better job of it. I don't need to be a part of that. This one just brings me so much joy. I definitely want Ed Camp. I was like, I definitely want to continue to be a part of Ed Camp because it's something that helps me, like brings me joy. And so just keep that lens of like, is this going to bring me value along with other people? Because like, I hate to say it, but it's okay to be a little selfish and say, this is bringing me value. And so I'm going to be a part of that.
Well, and I also think another takeaway would be that some people may not consider themselves teacher leaders, but in fact, they are teacher leaders and they just didn't think that. I don't know. That's kind of something from this talking about all the different ways you can be a teacher leader. It just didn't really occur to me that some of those things were that.
Yeah, sometimes your best, what you just said there, I think I could do well at this. I think I could do well, right? And this was me when I was in the classroom. I would have said I was a jack of all trades and a master of none, because I was like, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that. And I've gotten to the point where I'm now like, yes, I would want to do that, but maybe I let somebody else do it. And I just offered to support them, because then I can like vicariously feel like I'm helping, but I didn't overload myself to be like, oh, I didn't have enough time to dig into that the way I wanted. So then I'm kind of down on myself that I didn't give my 100%, but there was only one of me and I couldn't give 500% to the 5 things I was in.
Jenica made me a sign for my door at the beginning of the year because everybody was coming in to ask me for tech support, and I love giving tech advice and helping people out. However, it was getting to the point where I was having, like, there was a stretch where I had 4 phone calls and 3 people stopped by my, like, I was having to tell people to stop, to hold on a second at my door while I was answering the phone. And this is like 2 days before school. And so she made me a sign to put on my door that just says, I would love to talk to you, but I can't right now because I will spend the rest of my time talking to you because you're an awesome person. And yeah, so I love helping people out, but there are times when you got to put the pause and say, okay, I got some responsibilities I got to take care of first. I will talk to you in 30 minutes.
I think the other side of the sign also said, did you Google it? So maybe they could do that first before coming for help.
Oh my gosh.
Love that,
Yes.
Jenica.
Did you clear your cache of cookies? Should be the next one.
Did you
know what?
restart?
The biggest thing that I've told people today in the help desk, I've had it open all day, is to refresh the session board, because we've been actively updating it and people keep saying a link doesn't work or this doesn't work. And every time they refresh, they're like, oh, it works now.
I had the same problem earlier. All I had to do is refresh and it worked.
It's no big deal. But you know what? Part of that too is just being humble and kind and knowing we're all, everybody's multitasking and going a million different directions. But Josh, you're right. It's tough when you're a helper and you can help people. I keep trying to enable more people to be helpers and tech people. So in my building, say, hey, now you know how to do this. Will you help somebody else? Pay it forward, right?
Oh, I've been paying attention to new teachers as they come in. Oh, you're really good with technology. Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah, I think in a building, it should be like this. 1/3 teacher leaders, 1/3 people that are being mentored should become teacher leaders, and 1/3 of teachers that are not quite there yet, because then you're always recycling through the people, because people don't stay forever in the same building. So you're always going through that mentors, mentees, getting there, or whatever we name them, beginners, baby beginners. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you're a first year teacher or you'll be teaching for 20 years. It's just where you are in the season of your life and professionally.
So we've been talking a lot about like our own personal time management, and I'm just like Josh, like, oh my goodness, like I have a 4th grader, like in a year and a half, I'm gonna have a middle school kid. Like, how's that happen? So during COVID, when we were all in shutdown last year, I took a class like through Mid-America for professional development and college credit. And it's literally called like time management for educators, because I, like Josh, am the one that they're like, hey, will you do this? Will you do this? Will you do this? Will you do this? But not with technology, because I asked Josh for the technology help. So I'm sorry about that, Josh. But if you're really looking for like a great way to like have a self-evaluation and have a professor like really ask you some challenging questions, I would really recommend that class. Some of it was a little hard to like swallow when I really stepped back to like analyze myself. But it did teach me a lot about like saying no about things and truly like balancing my work and my private life a lot better. So look through that through Mid-American Nazarene University if you want to really like analyze how you spend your time as an educator. It was really good.
Very cool. And all of that being said, if any of you need anything, please feel free to reach out. The thing is I like I love helping people, but I especially love helping people who are like trying to do something new, trying something different, like willing to try restarting your device before you come talk to me. But please feel free to reach out. I don't mind. I hope you don't take this as Josh doesn't want to talk to anyone. He he doesn't want to help anyone. I do. I really do. I just may tell you, I'll get back to you in a couple of days.
Also, it doesn't hurt just to like not answer the email right away,
Right.
not call them back right away, because usually what happens is I get a follow-up message. I figured it out, Abby, thanks. And then I just keep on keeping on. Yeah.
Jenica actually got me a daily calendar thing. And it's basically like, it's got a to-do list on it, but then it has your top 3 things you have to get done, and it tracks I track my water on it, appointments, that sort of thing. And then each day I fill that out in the morning. And this is the first year I've done that. And that's been super helpful as far as like managing my time and keeping up with things.
Yeah, I have what I call my top 5 list. And if your thing doesn't make it to my top 5, I'm sorry, but you're down. Sorry. Like it is what it is.
Very cool.
We need to attend Jennicas session now to share all these hacks and all these ideas with everybody else, like the calendar, the top 5 list.
Yes, Jenica, when is your session tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I want to say it's at 12.
It's at
think
12.
it's at 12.
I have it on my sticky. So
Yay.
Also, just throwing this out there, let's see, today would be 20 years since Jenica and I's first date.
Oh, it is April 17th.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
so
that makes
we're-
us sound old.
Really sweet. Aw.
And we're all here to celebrate it with you
Yes,
guys.
that was actually we planned it. We were like, let's have an ed camp.
Yep. We forgot to tell them so they could bring us presents though.
Oh, dang it.
And they already gave away the Stone Pillar Winery one, Josh. So
No.
it's already
Well,
given.
Guys,
Darn it.
luckily Lindsay's one of my coworker friends, so I'm just gonna you're just gonna text me, right, when you're headed over there.
Abby, I put that on Twitter. I'm like, hey, I'm sure lots of friends would love to join you. We need to do our Ed Camp debrief at Stone Pillar Winery. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone's vaccinated. Let's all meet in person. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Josh,
Any other last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
Josh, you see your mom's note to you. You better remember that.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
We actually, so what she didn't put in there is that I took her and my dad Wendy's between sessions today.
Wow.
You're a great son.
I didn't get Wendy's.
You didn't? Oh, that is true. You didn't get Wendy's, but you brought us pizza.
That was on purpose, Jenica. He's saving something special for you
For
because
dinner.
You better be.
Oh, thanks, April.
right, Josh?
Yeah.
It's a hot date night.
Sure,
April, I
yeah.
appreciate that. I look forward to our special dinner
Hey,
tonight.
I've been facilitating our children getting home from a birthday party.
hey, if lunch was Wendy's, like Taco Bell, you never know. He's really got
Yes.
to.
I'll scale it up. Maybe a little Burger King. We'll go for the full value meal, like not just the 4 for $4. We're gonna get the full on value meal.
Jenica,
right.
that's why you have a happy marriage, because you guys have a great sense of humor and can laugh together. That's important characteristics.
She's very, very tolerant of
Forgiveness too.
all of my
Ask my
chaos.
husband. Forgiveness too. That counts.
Yeah.
They are two of the most compatible people I've ever seen married to each other. They
Yeah, we never fight, not ever.
well, no, I didn't say that. But they really do complement each other very nicely.
I'll probably keep him for a little while.
That's good.
Good, because we don't want him back.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be the end of the session. If you have not filled out the attendance document, go ahead and make sure you fill that out. It is on, Juliana, is it on the, it's on
Yes.
the grid,
I will
right?
share the link now. Just a second. I can
Yeah, it's
give
at
you
the top
link.
of the graphic on top of the grid.
Someone put it in the opening session chat, and that's that's where I filled it out. So if you filled it out this morning during the opening session, the only other thing you would need to fill out is if you're getting points for you need a certificate.
Yeah,
do we
and
not
that one
have
I
to fill
wasn't
it out
sure where
again
to
tomorrow?
find.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
No, go ahead. What was your
Do we
question?
need to fill it out again tomorrow or just the one time and we're done?
Both, I'm pretty sure for the one if you need a certificate.
Oh, the certificate, you need one for today and one for tomorrow.
Okay.
The
But if
attendance
we're just doing
forms,
the credits through MNU, if we filled out that one, just the once.
just one time.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so MNU doesn't need the one where we say which ones we go to.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Cool. All right, I'm going to stop the recording so then you can tell me what you really think.
It was awesome. Good job.